I'm not 100% sure if these types of questions are in scope on the exam as it's made in 2025 or not. That being said, they might be, and I've seen enough of them that I feel it's just, if it helps you 1% on the exam, maybe, then it's worth going over briefly. So, it's possible to see FRQ questions that include something like this. Draw the Lewis structure of CH3CO, CH2, CH3. Whenever you see something like this, I would say generally the hydrogens right after the carbon are connected to that carbon, if that makes sense. So this carbon would have those three hydrogens. And this is the one time if you have a molecule like this, it's a chain of carbons, you don't need to do the counting of the valence electrons and draw the whole structure. Just know that the carbons will typically form four bonds, right? Hydrogen's one and oxygen's two with two lone pairs. If it's a chain of carbon and all that's there besides carbon is hydrogen and oxygen, like this. Okay. So 90% of the time in chem, you probably should use the rules for drawing structures, but here we can just use the simple carbon, four bonds, etc. So then we have a carbon, we've done that part. Then we have a carbon, mentions an oxygen, and so that will then another carbon, so we know this will be a double bond because there's no hydrogens with this second carbon, and we can include those lone pairs. We have the next carbon already, and it says two hydrogens, so include the two hydrogens. Then the next carbon, and then its three hydrogens, which we can include with it like that, and we are done. Okay. Let's look at another example. Draw the Lewis structure of CH3CHO. So again, we draw that first carbon, and we're going to say that those three hydrogens after are connected to that first carbon. And then we have our next carbon, and it has an H and an O. So we can put the H, and that means that there's an O, and to fill in the number of bonds needed, that will be a double bond. Okay, it's also possible to see an FRQ question that includes something like, draw the Lewis structure of HCOOH. Now, the difference between here and here, like this, CHO, we're going to say, okay, carbon, hydrogen, and an oxygen with both of them attached. If you see an OH at the end, that typically indicates an alcohol, so a hydroxyl group. And if we have an OOH, that indicates a carboxylic acid group. So OH just by itself would indicate this generally if it's at the very end. And if we have this at the very end, then that's going to usually mean this, okay, carboxylic acid group. And so we can put the first hydrogen connected to that carbon, and then we have the two O's and the hydrogen. And so we're done. We would just need to include the lone pairs. Okay. So you can try this next one if you want. If you want, you can pause this video and try this final one. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could have paused this video and looked at this final one. So we should have a C, and then we have our three H's around it. Then the next carbon, and this is the same as if we were writing CHOO, or notice this little different here, it's COOH. Here they wrote CHOO. It's going to be the same thing. If for the final carbon we have an H and two oxygens that are connected to it, then we're going to draw them like with the double bond to the one oxygen, and then the single bond to the other with the H attached to it.